Hello, my name is Suzanne Longstreet, and I am a mindset and success coach. I'm also the CEO and founder of Pinkpreneurs. And I'm here today for our Pinkpreneur Spotlight with Sherri Griffin, who is a sales person extraordinaire. She calls herself just a sales gal, and she's so much more. She's a leader, she's an executive, and she is responsible for billions of dollars in sales. So congratulations, Sherri, on your successful sales career. And I wanted to chat with you today about positive focus and how are you doing? So tell us first about how you are still a pinkpreneur in the corporate world, and tell us a little bit about your company and your role now.
Awesome. So, Suzanne, first I just have to say thank you for being a leader in the community that wants to be able to get this great kind of communication out to people. Now is the time for us to be positive for certain. So thanks for inviting me into that. And what I would say is that as a pinkpreneur, when I was entrepreneurial and had my own consulting firm that I ran from my home with freelancers in the gig economy for more than 7 years, almost 8 years actually, that I was able to successfully sell my consulting firm and move into the corporate world. And when I did make that move into the corporate world, I had specifically decided to look for a sales role, which is, my main source and focus of strength, instead of a leadership role that had others reporting to it, or instead of big titles. I wanted to be able to do what I do best, and to really maintain my intrapreneurial spirit in an organization that's great. So I joined Gamify almost a year ago now, and have been loving being part of our software as a service company and selling a learning platform that's world-class.
Oh, that's awesome. So Sherri, I know you've been working remotely for over a week now, and remote, like self-isolating
Yep.
for over a week now. How are you maintaining positive focus in this new environment?
You know what, I want to acknowledge first that it's not automatic. I'm a very positive person naturally. I love being the glass is half full. Let's try it this way, and I'm 6 ways to Sunday in being a positive person. But I want to acknowledge it hasn't been a simple thing. This week has been strange. Our entire company of 200 people is working remotely. We're using a lot of Zoom and Skype and Teams and messaging to be able to stay very connected with each other. But one of the things that I really feel when we need to crank up our positivity and allow it to be that much more to the forefront is two things: being able to say yes and making sure that I say thank you. So for an example, we started our conversation today living out the words that I'm talking here. I wanted to say thank you to you, right? So that thank you is important. Let's remember to have that kindness where we're thanking each other, but also saying yes. I am a big networker. For me, connecting with other people and being people doing business with people is critical to the way that I operate. So looking for an opportunity when somebody says, hey, can I ask you a question about how you might have done this? Maybe they're spending some time sharpening the saw, so to say, about how they could be a better salesperson, have always wanted to have a coffee with me, but we haven't made that time. I'm saying yes to those conversations now and freely being able to help people with whatever questions they've had for me and saying yes to the opportunity to spend time with them. So I find that when we are positive and saying yes, and when we are full of gratitude and saying thank you, that natural positive kind of buoyancy comes back into us.
I love that. And what the word I picked up from all that you said, other than positive focus and saying yes and being in gratitude, was opportunities. There are so many opportunities here in front of us that are different than the way that they used to be. And what opportunities are you seeing around you right now?
Well, you know what, there's some funny opportunities that I'll tell you about that if anybody from my finance department ends up watching this and reading this, they will applaud. I am doing things like my expenses. I tend to lag on getting my expenses in. I'm the one that they have to hunt down a little bit to say, we need to do those things. So it's an easy thing for me to clear mental clutter that otherwise I haven't really taken the time to do. So I do have a little bit more time on my hands. I'm not running through an airport to try and get to a meeting. So that transportation time that I used to use, I'm reusing that and saying, okay, I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to go through my inbox and make sure that I've done things well to keep my inbox in great shape. I'm going to go through my expenses, get that off my plate. And I find getting little things and turning them from a to-do list to a to-done list is so helpful for making that space for me to really think of what I need to focus on for the bigger picture.
Oh, doesn't that make sense? Well done. And yeah, I know you.
Uh-huh.
I know you. Your finance department is applauding. So what are you doing to stay energized now in these times when you're, because the thing is we have to be energized to go out there and show the world, and we're looking at four walls. How do you do it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking at your walls and I'm thinking my walls need a little bit of work when I think of that too.
Like my tiara?
But I do. It's very pretty, Tiara, very pretty. So here's one of the things that as a sales girl, and one of the reasons that I have been able to be blessed to have a career with billions of dollars of sales success in it, is that I keep score. And, at a time like this, people might not think keep score is good advice, but here's what I'm keeping score of. And they are simple things that motivate me. What works for you, you'll know as soon as I explain how this sort of works. But I have a tally sheet next to me. I am just reaching out to people and giving myself a little tick mark for when I get a person that I'm speaking to. This is something easy. It doesn't have to be a monumental success in order for me to give myself this little point. At the end of the day, what I've found is that I'm being active, but I can find some productivity in that activity. And I can see, hey, I made 10 calls out to people that I wanted to be able to speak to today, and I spoke to 3 of them that wanted to have conversations. So being able to keep that little scoreboard of things, it's an easy thing to be able to do. So whatever it is in your world that you can keep track of that will help you, do that scoreboard. Write your to-do list and keep track and score yourself on how quickly you're getting to it to be a to-done list. Those are very, very simple things to do. But one of the other things that I wanted to share with your listeners today, Suzanne, is really sort of a game. I am a gamified person. I love to be able to bring an element of playfulness into everything that I do. And sometimes to keep my attention really focused, I need to be able to know what score I'm reaching for, what game I'm playing. So here's the game that I have been playing that I encourage you all to try for your own networks as well. I call it the game of the degrees of separation. Okay. If you're of a certain age, you might have heard of Kevin Bacon and the 6 degrees of separation. And if you're of today's day and age, we're hearing about social separation and making sure that we've got that distancing going on. But here's what I'm doing. Everybody has a mental Rolodex in their head. If not, you've got your phone with your contacts on it, you've got your inbox with your subscription list there, or you've got your LinkedIn profile with people that you're there with. Every single one of us has people that we have near and dear relationships with that we talk to all the time. And then we have a generation further out. I like to think of it as me being the center of the circle and then the rings like a tree growing around that. You have, 6 degrees of separation to other people. But what I'm suggesting to do in this game is simple. Go take a look through your contacts, wherever it is that you keep them stored. I've got a huge mental Rolodex, but whatever it is that keeps you. And look to people who you have always had a good connection with, but haven't really had a reason to speak to in the last little while. For me, I've been looking at people that I've had and known from the last 5 to 7 years that I can connect with. So what I'm doing is simply reaching out to them. I love to use LinkedIn. So I'm sending them a quick message saying, hey, I bet you, like me, have more time on your hands right now than you have in the past. Would you love to do a virtual coffee? And it's not strangers. I'm not cold calling with a sales tactic. I'm not looking for a customer. I'm looking for the human degree of connectivity. And I'm looking to people that I do know, have had some experience with, and sometimes it's as simple as having met them at a networking event like the Pinkpreneurs events. And sometimes it's more robust. Maybe we actually worked together in a previous role. But finding those people and giving myself that game of, today I want to reach out to 10 people and see if I can connect to 8 of those in terms of scheduling something to sit down and have a conversation. I'll tell you, Suzanne, today I had 8 calls that I would not have otherwise had if it wasn't for some of the isolation that we're doing and the crisis that we're sitting in with COVID. And the calls were just of good nurturing of each other. And so being able to be in a space where, I can say to somebody who I've worked with in the past who now lives in Atlanta, at the end of a fruitful conversation where we've just enjoyed catching up on what are our goals, careers, and how are you managing, saying, next time we are able to travel and I'm in Atlanta, I'd love to get together for a lunch. Well, those are the types of things that happen now when you cultivate these relationships and then find the degrees of separation that are the doors that are opening for you in the future. And those doors that are opening might be something as simple as, I'd love to be able to get a recommendation on my profile from you from the work we did together, or it might be, could you introduce me to somebody that you know? It doesn't have to come in this conversation, but reopening and re-engaging in those contacts is a really great way to be able to use the scoreboard, keep yourself very active, but getting productivity into that activity. And there's an acronym that I use regularly that keeps me motivated to go with. It's very simple. It's the word KNOW, K-N-O-W, and it's keep networks open and working.
Wow, love that.
And all I want to do is be able to reach out to people. Again, it's not a schmarmy salesperson thing. It's not a ploy. It's not a give-get. It is simply, what can I be doing right now that's sharpening the saw, that's helping me connect with individuals and allowing me to build future opening doors.
Love it. Okay, so many things. I've written so many things down. I love it. And you keep mentioning the sharpening the saw. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know it's a Stephen Covey-ism, and I love it. Can you share a little bit more about that? What it is?
Sure. So it's a simple story. I met Stephen Covey on stage in Kitchener, Ontario at Binghamton's, actually. And I was one of the people that he brought up on stage to do one of these sort of demos with. But he wrote a pivotal book. If you haven't had time, now is your time to read. Is it called The 7 Habits of Healthy...
Highly Effective People.
There you go, the highly effective people. So in that, he talks about 2 groups of lumberjacks. And the lumberjacks are incented to be said, you know, we want you to be able to do this lumberjacking work today, cut down these trees for us for the lumber today. And you only have so much time. And by the way, it's a competition between Team A and Team B. Whoever gets most gets double the pay. So off they go. And at the beginning of it, you know, Team A is just going gangbusters. They're not taking their breaks. They're, no, we can do more, faster, stronger. You know, we'll sleep when we're dead kind of people, where they're just going and going and going. The second group, you can see them having a coffee and a piece of banana bread at their 10 o'clock sort of break and wondering what the heck is happening here. And in fact, Group A seemed faster and better than the other group to begin with. But by the end of the day, it was the second group that prevailed, that was able to do more of the work that they had set out to do. And when asked what made the difference here from the people that were able to go so fast and cut out their breaks and not stop for lunch, the answer from the lumberjack was, during my breaks, I sharpened the saw. So the metaphor being, if this is somewhat of a break for us, or a different pace is what I'm looking at it as for us, what are the things we can be doing in this pace that allow us to self-learn, to connect more deeply, and to be ready for normalcy of work to come back in? What can I be doing to sharpen me? And using the Stephen Coveyism of sharpen the saw.
Oh my gosh, so brilliant. I love getting inspiration from you, Sherri. This has been so helpful. And I also want to step into talking about, I love that you're nurturing and connecting and you're taking care of yourself. So that's all really positive. And we still have businesses to run. We still need to genuinely ask for business. So there's been some conversation around this, and I know myself, I have hesitated this week to reach out, even though I know my services will help people to create virtual businesses. So help us with that. What do you recommend from a mindset shift with respect to continuing to ask money for sales, or continuing to ask for money?
Absolutely. So in a mindset, I always like to think of work as worthy. You know, when we are not engaged in activity, and let's all be clear, I love to take vacation just like the best of them too, but work is worthy. And to be in that mindset of knowing and understanding, a lot of us are lost right now. A lot of us are sitting back saying, what do I do? You know, my sales team is brilliant in that we're sharing all kinds of, hey guys, read this book, and this is a great podcast to listen to. So we're nurturing each other, but allowing us to still be in conversation. Of course, there's some people that we shouldn't be talking to right now. I have, pharmaceutical companies that I call on that I wouldn't be bothering at this particular moment for a net new kind of engagement. But one thing that I find is the very, I'm going to say, classy way to be in sales in crisis is to be looking at how you can be of great service to others. So to me, that means actually calling on your customers, not necessarily looking for net new revenues, and finding out if there are things that you can do for your customers. So for example, maybe you have offered them a certain package of services and they've thought of phase 2. Maybe they have more time now and want to accelerate and move into that phase 2 more quickly. Or maybe they want to be able to support us as solopreneurs or individuals in business. There's a lot of people who are doing great things to help keep people in business for this time right now that might not necessarily be in sort of that corporate safety space where they're going to get a reliable paycheck at this time. So the mindset for me really comes down to, how am I going to be of service? Do I think that right now is the time to be calling net new cold calls? Heck no, I don't. I don't think I could. It makes my stomach turn to try and figure out how to do that even. But do I think that we can be of service to one another and truly ask, are you too busy to talk about this right now, or do you have time on your hands and this would be a welcome distraction? And that distraction can be turned into something that's of value to you both.
I love that. Thank you. That's very helpful. Any other tips or thoughts that you have to share with us as we weather this storm?
Yeah, you know, it's a really funny one, and I mentioned it to a colleague today, and then ended up accidentally broadcasting it over the chat for a meeting we were having with about 20 people. But anyways, here's my tip. Take some time to do something extra special. For me, my husband and I are both here at home, and so we're taking dinner time. We're setting a beautiful table. We're putting candlelight on. I've got some great music going. We stop and play a game of Scrabble afterwards. You know, we're taking some time to carve out to do something different. Has nothing to do with my sales success, has nothing to do with his career, has everything to do with us being able to kind of create some great space within the weirdness of us both being in the house at the same time without going out to, you know, have people over or going out. So for me, candlelights, music, a wonderful meal shared very simply together in the sanctity of our own home. That's something I encourage anybody to add to their repertoire for a little extra special touch.
I absolutely agree. And since we're married to fabulous, gorgeous brothers, you have one, I have the other. I think that's a good idea. So I've got to find the candles and turn on the music and, oh yeah, figure out what's for dinner.
Right? Hey, if it's a scrambled egg, it's still a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Sherri. This has been a true joy. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.